a Lightning Strike and a Stoke, he already represents that mana right now, but 2 Stokes he wouldn't be able to pull off.
That's correct. Interesting to see what Colin's going to decide to do here. He's got another copy of Abbot of Carroll Keep in his hand, so he may choose to deploy that and hit a free spell and go that route. I believe the other card in his hand is just a Stoke. So he may choose to enter combat before declaring attackers, tap the guy, perhaps.
I could see him even stoking the Rabble Master immediately and then bashing in with both. With a single black mana up from Joe, he's not really representing anything right here.
Yeah.
And that would allow, let's see, Rabble Master would hit for 3. It'd be 4. It's 4 damage either way.
And Colin taking a look at what he has access to.
Yeah.
Graveyard and Exile Zone.
What's been taken out? What cards does he still have a chance to draw? Okay, we're gonna see that.
There's the Stoke taking down the traitorous Goblin Rabble Master, and then an attack for 4, dropping Joe 2 for life.
I like that. Like we said, it's 4 damage either way. But I like this play a lot because you're taking out that threat.
Looks like another copy of Dismal Backwater in Joe's hand. Can't quite tell. Could be a temple. There's a plus, Wild Slash, Atarka's Command.
Mana Confluence.
Mana Confluence.
Okay. So once again, he's hitting a lot of the burn spells, which I'm sure he's not sad to see as much as he wants a creature to take out, to just, play more creatures to get blockers up, since 2 of his hangerbacks have already been answered. But things that he can't interact with as easily are always nice.
See if this is an Artificer's Epiphany here.
Yeah. So he's going to draw to discard, because he's not currently controlling artifacts.
That is correct. Digging for something specific here. Table Spotter valiantly triumphing over the moth that is terrorizing our players in the feature match area. Yeah. Shout out to him.
Justice was done this day.
Yes.
As they may continue their match.
And it was swift. Looks like another copy of Artificer's Epiphany is ditched upon resolution. He finds a Polluted Delta, which comes into play.
I mean, you're kind of hoping for an Urborg here, and you don't want to go down to that 3 burn range just to crack your land.
I do see a copy of Atarka's Command in Colin's hand. That should be game, because Joe has to.
Oh.
Yeah, this is gonna do it. The fetch brings Joe down to 3 in response. Oh no, he's electing to wait. Joe does have to do something to stop this lethal attack. Yeah, there we go.
Yeah, looks like dig.
Game
okay, we did have a
to
Hero's Downfall in hand, so that the attack itself wouldn't have been lethal, but
correct. Yeah, it would have taken him down to 1 life. I'm gonna head over to game 2 here. I am privileged enough to know most of the sideboard options that Joe has. Game 1 is very poor for him, and he feels that he needs a lot of help. So he's going to be bringing in copies of cards like Farika's Cure, Drown in Sorrow. I believe he has 1 copy of Bile Blight.
Oh, I like that side a lot. Freakish Cure is very interesting. It's the double black, deal 2 damage to a creature, you gain 2 life.
That's correct.
I believe every card in the burn deck has 2 toughness, at most. And the only thing it really can kind of get you is if they buff the Swift Spear in response, Prowess Trigger. But even then, you're gaining the 2 life, and as we saw there, Colin was running out of steam, very low on cards.
It is certainly an excellent answer to a card like Goblin Rabble Master, which can apply a bunch of pressure on its own. He's also bringing in, I think, 2 copies of Negate here. Negate, just a fine way to trade 2 mana for
2 mana answers like half a Colin stack. Seems very good.
It's good. It can counter a Stoke pretty unequivocally in most situations. And there's not a whole lot that Colin can do about those negates because it's very easy to leave the 2 mana open. We were actually talking about it earlier. Joe had access to Stratus Dancers, and he was considering running those over the negates. Mm-hmm. But I think the mana efficiency of the deck...
Stratus Dancer, again, the Megamorph creature.
Megamorph.
That can flip up to counter a spell.
An instant or sorcery.
Yeah, so it's... Oh, instant sorcery.
It's slightly more narrow than negate, but still useful for the same purposes in this specific matchup.
Yeah, we're not seeing many artifacts or enchantments from Colin. If I don't think he's actually got any in his main. So
No,
yeah,
I don't believe so.
It does the exact same role, but also has a body. It's interesting choice.
It's a little bit on the expensive side. Paying 3 to morph it and then 2 more to unmorph it it's certainly a time investment. Usually an entire turn. In that situation, Joe barely got to 6 lands in the last game.
Yeah. And taking a whole turn off, especially in the early game, when you could leave the mana for the negate up, I think is a little risky, especially of how fast Colin's deck is.
Absolutely. Joe's looking for the type of hand where he can sit back on a couple of counter spells early. Maybe play a removal spell like a Freaka's Cure or a Bile Blight. Ultimate price, what have you. A 2 mana. Maybe Clash of Will something. Get his counter spell through. And then on turn 4, he would like to have Darksteel Citadel in play. And then deploy his Thopter Spy Network so that he only really has to take 1 turn off. And he's not super far behind on the board when he does it. Because if he is, that tempo loss of not applying pressure to the board, not doing anything to what Colin is doing, not stopping any of Colin's threats, anything like that, could be potentially very detrimental to the game state.
Yeah, and the fun thing about the Spy Network is it gives that ability, if one or more of your artifacts deals combat damage, you get to draw a card. That's not associated with just the Thropters that the Spy Network works. So if he plays, like we saw before,
Hanger
a
back.
turn 2 Hanger, it gets answered, and he's got that Thropter up, and he sticks Spy Network, he can immediately crash in and get that card advantage. Well, crash in, tickle for 1.
Tickle. It's a bit of a pinch, really.
Yeah, but 20 pinches does enough.
Still enough damage, indeed. Yeah. I don't think Colin's going to bring in his Hornet Nests in this matchup.
No, I
probably see him.
Although
side a little bit differently.
I would like to see the bees versus Thropter,
dear.
rumble in the sky, just flying 1/1s for days.
The aerial battle.
Aerial battle.
One for the record books.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what we're going to see him bring in. If he has access to Eidolon of the Great Revel, I believe that would be a very good card for him to bring in. He can get some early damage in and then just sit on a 2/2.
Yeah.
And make Joe.
And while
fight
most
through it.
of his cards is going to cause that Eidolon to trigger against himself, he's really not worried about his life total until Joe gets to the late game.
That's true. Joe can become very aggressive very quickly, especially if the Hangerback gets to grow to, say, a 3 or 4 power creature before it dies. Very, 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 very important that Colin keeps that card under control. Looks like Colin did not like his 6, or excuse me, his 7. Going to go to 6. Take them all again. I'm excited to see what becomes of the format going forward. I like where these burn decks are positioned currently. I think a lot of the newer strategies are still on their just on their infancy. They're finding their legs. They're vulnerable to aggressive.
Yeah, like we
starts.
said, the Abs and Elves is relatively new, just this week even. People using the rally to get those shamans in. There's a lot of interesting archetypes that may yet to be seen. Now, quick question while we're in the first couple turns, do you think Colin has anything to answer the Spy Network? We didn't see it, but he's got to know that he's playing it.
He certainly does. He knows that there was Hangerback Walker, and here it is once again, right on turn 2. That's the best way to start this game. I'm sure that he's got at least 1 copy of Destructive Revelry. In fact, I think that might be what's in his hand now.
Yeah.
I think there's 1 creeping at the back of his hand. But he certainly has access to at least 1 of those because we knew that he sideboarded 1 in the last round.
Yeah, against.
So he will definitely have at least 1 of those currently. So here's a Searing Blood. It's going to take Joe down to 17.
With Colin at 19, took that damage from his fetch.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
I like the Searing Blood here. You don't let that Thropter get a little too out of control. If it goes too wide, they'll have more Thropters than will have burn spells. However, like we mentioned before, if he plays the Spy Network on turn 4, he'll be able to get that card advantage in immediately.
Lightning Berserker, the draw for Colin. I would have liked to have seen him play a creature. Yep, there is the copy of Destructive Revelry. If he does not have a creature other than this Lightning Berserker, it's a bad sign for him because Joe is going to be able to prey on a start that is not aggressive enough. And it doesn't look like Colin has... It looks like he's got Rabble Master, which is certainly going to die before combat if he plays that or get countered. And the Lightning Berserker, that may be able to sneak in for a couple damage.
2 sources of blue, 2 sources of black. Joe is representing all sorts of spells. Hero's Downfall, Dissolve.
Farika's Cure, the most disastrous of all. Undoing most of the damage from that Searing Blood, if that's what Joe has access to. A simple Clash of Wills or Dissolve is also going to be very, very good here. Joe is ahead. If Joe can, you know, stick that 4th land Darksteel Citadel into Thopter Spy Assembly, or Thopter Spy Network, this game could be over very, very, very quickly.
Thopter Spy Assembly sounds like a card that would be legacy playable.
There's the Clash. It's going to counter it unless you pay 2. So in this situation, Colin has to choose what he will do. He can pay 2 to get his 1 damage in, or he can let it get countered and hold up. Looks like he is just going to get his 1 damage in. Joe down to 16. Not a bad spot for him. Untapping, about to take his 4th turn. There's Taziger. Taziger, the Golden Fang.
Tassiger is going to be rough. It's going to take at least 2 cards out of Colin's deck to take him down. He's going to either need to put a creature in front and a Stoke the Flames or any 2 burn spells.
This was a card that I knew was in Joe's list. I wasn't sure if he was going to bring it or not. It is very good. And it can tempt Colin to possibly bring in a copy of Roast, which is otherwise very mediocre. Roasting a Hangerback Walker is not good.
Plus, Roast doesn't even hit any of the Thropter tokens.
Correct. It doesn't hit any of the flying creatures.
It does hit his own Rebel Master when Ashiok seals it again, though.
That is true. I hope he's not boarding in under the assumption that his creatures are going to end up on the other side of the board. That would be very unfortunate.
I'm not even sure if you keep Ashiok in. I mean,
Ashiok is quite slow. It does do a lot on the play. Make a token, block it with Tassiger, the play here. He's taking a whole turn to deploy this Rabble Master. I don't know if there's a better line for Colin, but this one's probably not good enough.
He's still sitting on that Revelry. He's thinking, maybe does he use it now? Does he wait for the network?
Oh, he's definitely going to sit on it.
Yeah, I would think so too. As as attractive as basically another Searing Blood almost looks for that Thropter, getting 2 damage in on Joe right now is really not what you want to do.
It won't happen unless Joe's life total becomes much, much, much lower. Joe doing some quick math here.
Yeah, can I tap out this turn? I really like Tassiger coming in here because he doesn't get hit by the Languish. Or he doesn't die immediately to the Languish. He goes down to a 0/1, but when that wipes out an entire board full of goblins, maybe they use a burn spell to finish off your Tassiger, but they've got to have it. Oh, and there's the Citadel. And a Drown in Sorrow.
Citadel and Drown, gonna take out the Thopter. Scry Trigger. Interesting he did not attack with the artifact there. Before playing that. I wonder if that may have signaled the Drown and tempted Colin to block. Although if he just snap blocks, you're okay with that. I don't see what the downside from the attack is. Here comes Lightning Berserker once again. Here comes Monastery Swiftspear. The pair rumbling in together.
Swing for 2, possibly 4.
A passing of the priority. Pump once. 2 a 2-1. Take 3 damage in total. Joe down to 13. Interesting Colin bluffing a 1-mana spell, also holding up Wild Slash. Just gonna Wild Slash you.
Go to 11.
Perhaps before damage, in order to trigger. That would make him to 10. Yeah, Colin did do that.
Oh, trigger the prowess from the Swift Spear, of course.
Yeah, before damage. Getting the extra 1 in. Being very careful to get all of the points of damage in that he can.
Joe on his 6 land. That Citadel ability to tap for black from Urborg. Urborg giving no advantage at all to Colin. I like it.
It certainly makes playing Citadel slightly less painful.
Yeah.
That is one of the advantages of pairing black.
Yeah, I really like the leaving mana open here for Tasigur. If he doesn't have to answer everything, I mean, he can still drop a 2-mana counterspell, negate maybe for a thing, and still have the mana up to activate Tasigur and just start grabbing card advantage like crazy. Looks like we have 2 cards in Joe's hand as well. And with that, do we have a delve earlier?
Looks like we've stepped away from the table. Colin has a question about a card, so we'll just wait to see what that yields here. Here he comes back. I wonder if the question was about playing the Destructive Revelry targeting the Darksteel Citadel, if he would still get the damage.
Yeah, it depends on the wording of the card. Some just say deal 2 damage. Some say if this is destroyed. Yes. Like Terrastodon's a great example. Sees a lot of good commander play. You only get the elephants per each permanent destroyed.
Correct. So we see Monastery Swiftspear and another dashed Lightning Berserker.
Looks like we're going to actually Tasigur try to find an answer here. He's got double black up. You know, are you hoping for a Freakus Cure here?
I think, depending on what gets flipped over, I think he's probably going to give him this. Well, I'm not sure how aggressive Colin wants to be. If he wants to be very aggressive, he can give him the dig because he knows that he will not be able to cast that anytime soon. And if he does, he'll have to take his entire next turn to do so.
Yep.
Giving the Drown in Sorrow.
Wipes his board
he's going
next
to give
turn.
him the dig here.
Yeah. And the negate just blanks a burn spell. And he's coming in with creatures, so.
Yeah, the negate is definitely not going to Joe's hand. That would be the most mana efficient way for him to be able to get out of this situation. Gets to negate a burn spell, blocking things. See what Colin decides to do here.
Looks like we're blocking one of the Swift Spears. I think he's kind of taking the risk that he doesn't have 2.
Joe's okay just taking 2 here. Looks like we are going to see a Tarka's command. Very interesting.
Prowess, plus and reach.
So those will make this 3 4s.
Probably 3 to the face for the other mode.
And 3 to the face. Yeah, so that's going to, if it resolves.
So the Swift Spears will be 3 4s.
Freakus Cure.
Oh,
very nice.
Very nice.
So Joe's going to gain 2 up to 12. It's going to kill the Swift Spear before that resolves and before the Prowess trigger resolves.
So he'll take 3 from the spell, and then he'll take 2. So he'll take a total of 5.
Yeah, going to 7. And the Lightning Berserker goes back to Colin's hand.
And Tasigur finishes off the other spear.
Yeah. Dismal Backwater going to gain Joe another life point up to 8. Doing his best to keep his head above water. He's almost grinded his way through all of this. I only see 2 cards left for Colin. Oh, he's drawn Lightning Strike. That's a very good one. So he's got Lightning Berserker and a couple burn spells in his hand.
Now he does, assuming Colin doesn't play anything too crazy this turn, I think we're going to see a dig at the end of the turn.
Joe has to be a little cautious, but I don't think he's afraid of dying at 8 life. So I think you're correct about the dig.
Yeah. 4 mana, best kind of damage potential we're seeing would be 2 lightning strikes, and that's the only. And then he's still at 2.
This dig could potentially be very, very good for Joe. looks like that is what we're going to see here. He's going to tap all of his mana. Leaving one up doesn't really do anything, and he can leave himself with one of those cards, which couples well with Tasigur. He's going to leave the negate.
Yeah.
I like that play.
With no creatures on board, negate is basically the only thing.
There's the Destructive Revelry targeting the Darksteel Citadel. They're going to double check. I believe that is what the judge question earlier was about.
Yeah. Let's see if
This should still deal him 2 damage.
You'll see if I can bring that.
Players reaching for the life totals. I believe it deals 2 damage no matter what. 3 more damage here while Joe is tapped out. All of that very interesting information because now he knows Colin's last card is just the Lightning Berserker. So he may get aggressive and decide not to take a counterspell. I think he should take a counterspell just to be able to save himself from top deck burn spells. So this dig needs to be pretty defensive.
Yeah.
I think a Pharika's Cure and a counterspell are the best choice here.
Yeah.
We'll see what he did find.
So the actual text on Destructive Revelry is destroy target artifact or enchantment. Destructive Revelry deals 2 damage to that permanent's controller. Looks like he took Clash and Dissolve as well.
So double counterspell. He feels the same way that I do about this matchup. Probably going to be able to dissolve a Lightning Berserker.
Yeah, he's sitting on way more mana, so there's...
I'm not sure what this other card that Colin has drawn is. There's the Lightning Berserker once again. There's an attack. He's let it resolve. Here comes a Hero's Downfall.
Ah, okay. I was wondering why that resolved, but if he's got a Hero's Downfall, I like using that.
He must have drawn that for the turn, and that's why he's sequencing his spells the way he is. He's saving those counter spells. So that's... We've missed 2 attacks here, so that's going to be Colin down to 6. 2 counterspells here should take care of whatever Colin could top deck. There's an attack. Colin down to 2. Just gonna say go. A passing of the turn.
And looks like he wasn't able to grab.
Yeah, I think Colin's just gonna scoop him up. We're gonna see a game 3 here.
Okay.
Excellent. I'm enjoying watching this matchup. I'm glad we get to see a 3rd game.
Now, both these players are 2-0 in their records for tonight going into round 3. So it's not really a surprise they're going to game 3 since they've been doing well all night. But it's always good to see a full-on battle of Magic.
Yeah, 2 talented players holding serve, if you will, winning their games on the play. Actually, no, Joe has been on the play for both games. So Colin was able to steal game 1. Unfortunately, we still have not seen Thopter Spy Network.
We had it. Joe had it in his hand game 1, I believe, but he didn't ever draw it in game 2.
No, certainly not. Didn't have time for it. The Tasigur did all the work. Consulting the sideboard once again to find maybe 1 or 2 cards difference. After seeing Destructive Revelry, do you change your mind about any of the cards in your deck, or do you hold? You hold fast.
I feel
perhaps Colin knows that card is too good not to take out.
Yeah.
Obviously, Joe has not stuck a Thopter a Thopter Spy Network yet. But unfortunately, like you have to keep them in because if he ever does stick the Spy Network, the game can spiral.
Yeah, and I don't think you take anything out. Hangerbacks they get so big. And like I said, it's basically just another copy of Searing Blood, and those are only for the Thopter tokens. When he's doing it for creature removal. For the enchant removal, it's a little bit more rough. It's another spell that gets hit by negate, but it's not like you are lacking targets for that.
Yes.
I think the potential advantage you can get from the Spy Network is just so high. Because so say like he plays it and he is immediately able to get a card draw off of it, and then he has to spend a card. Are you willing to take 2 damage for a card draw? Usually you are. And let alone say he gets a Thopter token and a card draw off it before it gets answered. Well, then you're definitely a card draw and half a creature, because Thopter token flying 1/1's about half a card. I think the potential for advantage is enough there that you leave it in.
Absolutely.
You can also kind of bait it out, too, if you maybe know it's in his hand, or if you know he has no legal targets for it and you're low, you can kind of play around it, like, oh, maybe I won't drop my Citadel. Maybe I'll play this land instead.
Colin has to be wondering what sort of other cards Joe's brought in. I think he saw lots there. He did not see Bile Blight, but a lot of the sideboard cards Joe is able to draw, able to turn game 2 in his favor. Colin taking a look at his sideboarding options once again. He saw the Tassiger is playing with some of those roasts. I don't think he can board in too many of those, because if he draws a whole lot of roasts and not things that deal a lot of damage,
Yeah.
he may find himself with dead cards, and that's not where you want to be.
I think you can
red.
kind of get a feel that Joe's probably not running 4 copies of Tassiger.
There's only one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, like, I could see one. I could, if you're being conservative, maybe you assume Joe has 2. So in terms of roast, I probably wouldn't board in more than 2.
I think 2 is a sweet spot.
Yeah.
If he thinks that there are more copies of Tassiger, I could see boarding in 3.
Yeah.
But I think that that's a little bit defensive. He's going to be on the play here, so
Plus,
that incentivizes him to not want as many.
Even with the delve ability, Tassiger's not hitting very quickly. So with only 2 copies of roast, he has time to draw into them. Joe does not win quickly. He will control you well, and maybe by the time you draw the roast, he's got a counter spell up. But by that time, it's not like he's going to have 3 Tassigers in play. He doesn't have to worry. Legend rules can stop that from happening. He doesn't have to worry about getting overrun by this threat. So yeah,
That's definitely true. I think Colin, his mindset going into this game should be 1 drop, 2 drop, burn spell, burn spell, burn spell. He should be trying to take advantage early, sneak under Joe's counterspells, and then fight through whatever he plays afterwards. If Joe doesn't draw enough disruption, if his hand isn't up to snuff, he's going to find it very difficult to keep up with what Colin is doing. If Colin's hand is ideal...
Which we saw game 1.
That is exactly what we saw. He just kind of ran right through him.
Because by the end of game 2, Joe was sitting on, almost 8 lands, if not 8, and Colin was still stuck on 4, and he had enough mana to cast a counterspell, cast a removal spell, and even maybe activate Tassiger.
Joe got to a board state which he is definitely wanting to see, where Colin has 1 or 2 creatures. It's very easy to keep under control. Colin can't reasonably overextend into the Languishes that Joe is playing, or the Drown in Sorrows. So he's got to watch out for those sweepers on both 3 mana and 4 mana. So he's got to be careful how he deploys his threats.
Okay. Yeah. So plus we get to the point where if it goes too late, Joe gets up to 8 mana, he drops a hanger back for 4, and then once again, it's not trading, okay, I'll delete your 1/1 and deal with your 1/1 Thropter later. It's you have to spend a real spell, stoke, roast, to delete, that 4 creature, and then you have 4 guys in the air, and at worst, that's a 5-turn clock. Colin's not gaining life. He's cracking fetches. He's going to realistically be at 18.
We've seen him play Mana Confluence.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see them shuffle up here, draw their opening hands. There's a copy of Mana Confluence. See if he's got a second land. No second land. I'd like to see him ship this back. I don't think he's going to be able to play mana or play Magic with so little mana. It would certainly be greedy. He does have Monastery Swift Spear.
He does have an Abbot as well, so if he should be on the draw. So if he gets a land draw within the first 2 turns, he can Abbot and hope for another land. But like you said, it's greedy, but that means his hand is a fistful of good spells.
So Joe mulligans and Colin's keeping. Colin with a very speculative keep here. He's got 1 land. Yeah. He should be on the play for this match, and if he misses on his second turn land drop,
it's going to be a rough position to get back.
Exactly.
He's looking at what, like a 45% chance of drawing a land there.
Yeah, I don't think it's super low. These red-green burn decks, I think they typically play 21, 22 land at most.
Yeah. So he's got like a third of his deck is land. Goes down to basically 50 cards.
Let's see if Joe likes his 6.
It's definitely less than 50%, probably somewhere around 40.
Yeah.
That's It's a risk, but if he gets that land there, he's going to be in good shape because he's going to have a handful of spells that he can just fire off one after another.
This is certainly a dice roll here. Joe's going to go to 5, so we may see him get those extra turns that he needs. Once again, while the players are shuffling up, we're going to take this as our round 3 opportunity to thank you guys for tuning in and give you guys a shopping code. Go to the wastelandgaming.com, and when you go to checkout, use the coupon code STREAM, STREAM.
This will give you 10% off your entire purchase. Wasteland offers single, sealed product, board games, a large supply of different card games, not just Magic, several other very popular TCGs.
So here we go. Mana Confluence, the start for Colin. We're going to see both players drop to 19. There's a Temple, Scry.
I like the Scry first here. He knows he's not going to play anything on 1 mana. He's kept that 5-card hand, so Scrying off the top seems probably the best land you can play on turn 1.
Looks like a Wild Slash, and once again, we talked about it. He did miss. There's the Farika's Cure. Joe's going to go up to 17. He did hit his second land drop, and Colin, well, he's got a land here now.
Scry lands.
This is actually a very good one for him to hit because he doesn't want to play the Abbot yet anyway. He wants to wait and play it next turn so that if he does spike a land, he can play that.
Yeah.
Gives him an extra chance. So here's Thoughtseize. Joe may decide to go in for the throat here and take the Abbot. I think Colin should reasonably be able to play Magic.
Firecraft, Stoke,
Abbot,
yeah. As well as a Searing Blood. So the Exquisites are at 3. You know you have no lands in hand. If you take the Abbot, he has to naturally draw a land to play the rest of his spells.
That is true. And if he doesn't play a creature for a while, Searing Blood is dead.
Searing Blood. So he knows. So if he takes the Abbot, there is basically no play that Colin can make next turn. Joe's defenses are down.
Well, not with what he has in his hand.
Not with what he has in hand. He has, like we said, he has to naturally draw into it.
Yeah.
He did have that scry earlier, so we don't know what he scried away, but we know it's not what he wanted.
It wasn't a land.
Yeah.
I think he would keep that.
Yeah, it looks like we did grab the Abbot.
Backwater. Gonna get another life point for Joe. Gain 3 already.
Yeah, that aggressive start did work, but
Atarka's
getting
command
3
here. Just 3 damage.
I'm guessing not drop the land mode.
No, that's the one Colin cannot activate.
That was a little rude. I'm sorry. Ooh, Darksteel
Citadel. That's a good one. Just a pass. Artificer's Epiphany.
Oh, with the Darksteel, I like this a lot. He's gonna
Lightning Strike on the stack.
Response before he has something to draw. And remember, the Epiphany is draw 2, discard a card unless you control an artifact. That indestructible land is an artifact, so he's just gonna have an instant speed divination.
Yep. Just double checking that real quick. Joe's gonna pass it back. I see a copy of Dissolve in his hand. He may just be able to wait out.
This is
this mana shortage here for Colin. Develop a board state. He's hitting land drops. Colin is not. He can counter the things that Colin is playing and then untap hopefully and stick the card we've been talking about.
Yeah, that or a Tasigur here, super strong play.
Tasigur would be excellent. So Colin's going to take 2, Exquisite Firecraft. He has Spell Mastery, so this is uncounterable.
Yep.
Looks like Joe's going to dig.
Yep. Why draw those threats when you can find them?
Yeah, so 14 to 6 updated life totals here for you. Very interesting choices. An interesting game because Joe can't take something like a Farika's Cure right now because Colin still has 3 or 4 burn spells in his hand.
He knows
that played a creature.
He knows he has a second copy of Firecraft in hand.
He does.
So Joe's life total is effectively at 2 because he can't stop that spell.
That's correct. So he may be looking for a backwater, maybe looking for just more counter spells. Blue sources also very, very valuable for Joe because
he's only on 2.
Right. If he has a Clash to pair with the other counterspell, the Dissolve in his hand, he needs another blue source to be able to do both in the same turn.
Colin we know has the Firecraft in hand. He has a Searing Blood. Do we know what the third card in his hand is?
So Stoke.
Stoke.
Searing Blood. Yeah. Exquisite Firegraft. Yeah. And then I think maybe an Atarka's Command is in there somewhere.
Just going to hang her back for 2.
Can't quite tell.
That's...
Hang her back for 2 is aggressive. I don't know if
I don't know if I like that because it triggers the Searing Blood. I understand not dropping it for 3 because you don't want to tap all your mana out for it. Oh, it looks like we had a land for Colin.
Still on 3 lands.
Oh, no, you're right.
Here's Exquisite Firecraft. 2 damage to Colin. 4 damage to Joe.
I think...
I think Joe is... So it looks like we've gotten word from the table spotter that Joe is setting up a play where he can Freakus Cure his own Hangerback Walker.
Okay. That makes a lot more sense.
To potentially gain some life.
Yeah, because I was...
See if the outplay comes up here.
Because I was worried about the... you Searing Blood takes out the guy, he takes out the walker, he goes down, and then you finish him off with the uncounterable Firecraft. But if he has the cure in hand, then he's actually baiting it out.
He is. 10-2, the updated life totals here. There's a mountain. Stops some of the life loss here for Colin. He's got a copy of Abbott in his hand. Chooses not to play that. Just going to pass it back. Dare Joe to make a move. Maybe seeing an upkeep spell here.
Now, he's attacking in every turn, so he hasn't really had a chance to tick up the Hangerback.
That is true. Looks like Stoke is happening here. That's going to take Colin down to 8. We're going to see a dissolve from Joe. I think this is upkeep as well.
Yeah, before the draw.
Yes.
So you're really hoping for a top deck Firecraft here for Colin. Yeah, I assume he's running 4.
There is the draw. The shields are down. So Joe can make the Freaka's Cure play if he wants to, but he's got to do it right now because if he lets Colin untap, that plays basically off the table.
And Cure is an instant, correct?
It is.
Yeah. I feel like you keep swinging in for 2, and if he tries to do something to the Hangerback, you Cure it in response, gain the 2 life, and if it's something like a Destructive Reveille, then the spell just fizzles.
That is the ideal situation. If Colin spends his mana on something like a dash creature, we may see Joe have to Freakus Cure his own
to get those blockers
into open mana, which is a scary proposition.
Yeah, being at 2 makes a lot of tough choices.
Yeah, so looks like he's just pumping it up to 3 and tapping it and passing the turn back.
He's leaving.
This is an interesting play here. He's walking into Atarka's Command, which we know Colin has. So Colin really just has to play 2 spells this turn. So I'm thinking about an Abbot of Carol Keep. Knows that there's a Searing Blood in hand, so that's probably why he's ticking up. Because if he tries to tick up on Colin's turn, Searing Blood will finish Joe off.
Yeah, and it's looked like, the Searing Blood. Looks like he's going to Abbot?
Abbot of Carol Keep. We'll see if that resolves. Looks like it will.
Swift Spear.
Monastery Swift Spear. A very interesting one. I don't believe Colin has a 1-mana spell to couple with it. So if he does cast that, he'll be able to get in for 1 damage, which is... Oh, no, he's got another land. All right, so very interesting.
He's going to take that 1 damage anyway, but he only has to take it the 1 time.
Yes. Colin can still go for the win here. By leaving up... Yep, there's a fetch. Him down to 7. By leaving up the Atarka's Command. He is going to cast the free Monastery Swift Spear. Bringing in the attack step.
Yeah, he represents 2. He has to have 2 answers here. Atarka damage, Atarka puff.
Command. So
Prowess
looks like
is going to trigger.
Looks like he's just going for it here. We're going to see a Freakus Cure in response. It's going to kill it. It's going to take Joe up to 4 and then back down to 1 when it's all said and done. I'm sure the other mode was +1/+1.
Possibly can't gain life this turn, but he just casts in response.
Yeah, not really super relevant. Also, 2 more damage off of...
And we're going to see a ultimate price.
So ultimate price takes out the Abbot and an attack for 3. Colin's down to 2, so those... At least one of those mana confluence is turned off. Here's 4 for Stoke. Dissolve. Game. Joe's going to take it down 2-1 in a very, very tight match.
Both players played that exceedingly well. There was very, very little room for error there. Any left open mana didn't play around the card we knew he had in hand. Any forget on either side could have cost him that game earlier, and they both played it right to the end.
I think Colin's aggressiveness on that last play was a little bit premature. He could have not gone for the Atarka's command and just waited because he had the advantage on the board. And Joe didn't have a whole lot of mana open, so he can hit Joe down to 1 and then just leave that Atarka's command up and threaten it and make sure that it's hanging over Joe's head at all times so he can't ever tap out. He can't play the Freakus Cure because it just gets blanked.
Yeah.
Because he went for the kill there, I think that's what ended up costing him this game.
Yeah. Although, as much as, hanging that is, his life total was shrinking fast. And I think Freakus Cure is not a card we see a lot of play in, so a lot of people, I think he didn't probably play around it. Because with the command there, he basically is saying, my guy is swinging in for lethal, and I have lethal damage pointed at you on the stack. So he has 2 outs. So Joe had to have answers to both. So he's probably saying, does he have an answer? Yes. Does he have 2 answers? Probably not. Unfortunately, Freaka's Cure was 2 answers in 1 card. Exactly. And it looks like we have 2 copies of Roast, as we talked about.
Geniuses. Yeah. That's all you can say is that we're geniuses.
Yeah. You know what else would be a genius thing to do? Would be to come down this Saturday for the regionals. Show us your best decks. Let us talk about it at stream. Win yourself some ridiculous prizes. I believe it's $5,000 in prizes. Yeah, not to mention the trophies. I mean, you can get money from, like a job or selling Magic cards, but a trophy you got to win.
Getting paid, the spoils of victory taste so much sweeter than spending your day working for your average dollar. This is coming down and playing everyone's favorite game, Magic the Gathering, with all of your best friends. Yep. Many, many talented magicians also, if you're looking to improve. Come find us at Santa Fe Mall on Saturday.
Starting at 9. Doors open at 9?
Doors open, I believe, at 9. We'll have a player meeting at 10 and get you guys on your way as soon as we can. So we're gonna sign off here. We've already given you guys your coupon code for the round. Once again, it's STREAM, and you can use that at thewastelandgaming.com. 10% off. Yep. We'll see you guys at regionals, and we'll be right back with round 4.
Round 4. See you soon.
Okay.
Right, and we're back for round 4 of Thursday Standard here at the Wasteland Gaming. Joseph Anderson back on stream playing his same deck. And we have Joe Halton here at Abzan Rally. Abzan Rally is a deck that's recently come to light over the past few weeks. Used to be 5-color Rally, and then people liked it better at 3 colors.
That is correct. It's the winning deck of the past Star City Open in Richmond. The deck placed first over, I believe, Bant Heroic in the finals. But we couldn't get enough of Blue-Black Thopter Spy Network. Yep. Hoping to actually see the namesake card on camera at some point tonight.
We talked to Joe after the match, asking him where was it, and he agreed that against the burn deck, it didn't really have a place there. It was a little bit too slow. The advantage wasn't fast enough to deal with it, but hopefully we'll be able to see that Thopter Spy Network and see it, pump out some tokens.
Absolutely.
Get some card draw.
This may be the matchup for it. I was testing this specific matchup but a few hours ago, and I found that it was, well, a lot of fun, which is rare in Standard in my opinion. I think that this deck is a lot of fun to play, but on both sides actually. I think both decks are very fun to play. Abzan Rally, more of a collected company deck than a combo deck, but it still has those elements that feel very powerful and uninteractive. While Joe's deck, just getting to play with the Bitter Blossom Howling Mine combo type of thing is just too much fun.
Now, the 5-color Rally deck was, as you mentioned before, more of a combo deck. It would assemble the pieces and kind of just go off and win, whereas the Abzan Rally deck still has that potential, but kind of ekes out some more card advantage, sticks some threats. It's not Rally to win, it's just Rally to hit really hard, usually lethal.
Yeah, here's a Satyr Wayfinder here from Mr. Halton. Looks like he's going to take a land here. Dismal Backwater for Joe. Going to take him up to 21.
The small bits of life gain, always nice, but not nearly as relevant as the last match.
I believe that's a copy of Liliana in the graveyard. I do not think Nissa is a card that is played in this Abzan version of the Rally deck. An attack for 1 takes Joseph back to his starting life total of 20.
Yeah, I believe the Abzan Rally runs up to 4 copies of the Liliana, trying to get as many triggers as you can. When you have things like your Flesh Bags and your Merciless Executioners, you get those sack effects very early. She flips every time you basically cast Rally. So even if you're not doing it for a lethal swing, you can basically instant speed get her Planeswalker mode on the board.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And here is another Liliana, I believe. And ultimate price, going to take out Death Mist Raptor. Before it comes down, just wants to save himself some life total points. Joe should not take any damage because he's got an Urborg in play. Hanger Backwalker. Joe has missed his 3rd land drop twice now. That is not good for him.
Most of his answers actually run off of 3 mana. We've seen the ultimate price. And he's got the negates, which are very strong into the Rally the Ancestors.
Yeah, those should be sideboard. He does have 1 copy of Disdainful Stroke main deck. We've talked about that one. But, yeah, 2 mana cards in the main deck. Got some ultimate prices. I believe he can cast Clash of Wills for 1. Not a whole lot, really, he can do until he gets to 3 mana. His deck sort of runs in that sweet spot. Looks like a trade. Gonna flip Liliana. Gonna make a zombie.
Yeah.
Oh, excuse me. No, that's Merciless Executioner happening here.
Yeah, he'll sack his Wayfinder. That will trigger the Liliana. She flips. Looks like we're gonna plus here. Plussing very strong. When he's hurting for lands, every card that he's... Oh, there's the 3rd.
Found the island to couple with his other blue-black duels.
Island is probably really nice here because he's never hurting for black mana due to the other Joe's Urborg.
Correct.
Urbog. So getting that blue source is going to enable him to do more of stuff. So he's got all his colors and all his lands.
You'll see an attack here from both Be very surprised to see this Thopter not trade off with the Merciless Executioner. Copy of Hero's Downfall on Liliana. I kind of like that in combat, just making sure that it doesn't get to use its ability this turn. Joe may have been looking to minus and get another copy of a creature back from his graveyard.
The rally deck really has a toolbox of creatures. Everything's at 3 CMC, so -3 Lily allows him to do any number of things. -2 for a Wayfinder, -3 for another Executioner. You can.
It's like we had the life totals reversed here. 19 to 15 here, an updated life total.
And throwing out those removal spells is going to give him fuel for his dig.
There is a copy of Darksteel Citadel. Much needed 4th land.
Turns on all his, if you have an artifact cards, the Epiphany, and the Spy Network.
Land and Languish we're getting from our table spotter are the cards that were taken off of the dig. Both very good here. Because Halton is stalled on lands, it makes it very difficult for him to use Rally the Ancestors to bring back all of his creatures and gain a whole lot of value.
Looks like that was a Grim there, which is whenever another one of your creatures dies, you draw a card, allowing him to grab back both his Death Misraptors.
Yeah, the unmorph there is very big. I wonder if perhaps one of those Death Misraptors should have come into play face down. I don't know if it's going to matter because I think there's a Languish on the way here either way. Playing around some other cards, maybe specific spot removal. Yeah, so here's the Languish. That's going to get rid of all of them. Joe Halton's going to be able to draw 3 cards here off of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see if he remembers the trigger. Looks like he missed it.
Ooh.
Joe Anderson down to 10. I don't believe he has a 4th land, so both of the players struggling with their mana bases early. There's a Mogus's Marauder.
It's going to give himself haste and intimidate.
Yeah, there you go. Drop Joe Anderson down to 8.
The haste is, the big engine that allows you to get around of the rally not giving the creatures haste.
Correct.
That was the kind of the missing piece for a while. However, intimidate's not going to do too much against Joe since most of his creatures are artifact creatures.
Indeed. So hanger back for 1. Looks like we're also going to see a fetch here, down to 7.
Grabbing that basic island, which is now an underground sea.
Absolutely. Thank you, Urborg. And he's just going to deploy Thopter Spy Network. We finally get to see it. Excellent. Very excited. This is a position that looks very good for Joe. Joe Anderson. If Joe Halton can find some more mana and utilize his graveyard with Rally the Ancestors, or perhaps another morph creature to get those Death Misraptors back, he can maybe put up a little bit of a fight here. But Joe Anderson is threatening to pull ahead very, 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 very quickly. Can't untap fast enough to make that Thopter token.
First Spy Network upkeep trigger for the night.
Very excited. We will probably not see him attacking with artifact creatures just yet. Looks like an ultimate price going to come down here. Take out Liliana. Once again, Joe Halton's lands not causing him to take any damage because he has Urborg. Very useful. There's an attack for 1. There's the trigger, going to get to draw a card. Kind of going off now.
He has blockers up.
There is a 4th land for Joe, though.
Joe really wants to hit 6. 5. Rally, white, X for 3.
Yeah, rally for 3 is the sweet spot. He also doesn't have an Nantuko Husk, I believe, in his graveyard yet, which is the key to making sure none of those creatures actually get exiled. Because if they die before the trigger at that next upkeep, then they stay in the graveyard and they're fodder for future shenanigans, as opposed to getting exiled.
Yeah. So Rally has the exile at the next upkeep, as you mentioned, opposed to, say, something like Whip of Erebos, which is whenever the creature would leave the battlefield, exile it instead. So if you have a sack outlet, that will get around it.
So Windswept Heath, getting cracked here, going to find a Plains. We'll see what Joe decides to do here. Finding him a non-painful source of white mana. Looks like he is going to take 1 off of this. Does not have a non-painful source of green. So there's Collected Company. He's going to go down to 16. And Joe down to 5 from the attack from Mogus Marauder. No blocks. So we have life totals of 16 and 5. That, of course, getting dissolved.
Yeah, stopping the Collected Company is very good. It's basically the second engine in the deck.
Yeah, we did mention before, this deck really functions more like a Collected Company deck than it does the combo deck that we saw the 5-color version of the Rally deck be. Joe adding another artifact creature to the board. Hangerback once again for 1. We'll see if one of those decides to play defense. Sandstep Citadel for Joe Halton. He's got multiple copies. Looks like 3 copies of Rally the Ancestors in his hand. So all he needs is untapped mana, and there's the Nantuko Husk. Just a little bit late to the party.
Yeah, he's not really concerned about this getting countered, this getting answered, because it's just going to put it right back in the yard, and he's going to rally it back, which is exactly what he wants to do anyway.
Exactly. It also kind of blanks some of the targeted spells from Joe. Makes it very difficult for him to resolve removal spells.
There's Epiphany.
Things like Bile Blight out of the sideboard become worse.
Now, you said that Joseph's deck only has 1 negate in the main?
It's no copies of Negate main, 2 in the side, and 1 copy of Disdainful Stroke.
We have an Ashiok.
Ashiok here. It's going to hit.
Rally, Wayfinder,
So there's
Coco.
the 4th copy of Rally Collected Company, and we found a Satyr Wayfinder. Not the worst thing, by no means. Fueling Digs, getting Joe more lands, if he decides to minus and put that into play. No attacks. Just holding up the defense. Rally for 3. He's going to have to take 1 pain, I believe, to cast this, taking down to 14. No pain. Sandstep Citadel also makes white. 15 to 5.
Looks
Joe
like
Halton and Joe Anderson.
checking his graveyard, seeing if he needs the care.
It looks like he's just going to let it resolve. The players separating the cards coming in fresh from the ones that were in play previously.
So there's 3 lilies. Legend Roll is going to immediately take out 2 of those.
2 of those have to be taken out.
Which is nice because it automatically flickers. The other one.
So the first trigger that's going to resolve, after all of them are stacked, are the Exile, the Liliana, and Return It flipped. And then we'll see him, flip over some cards with Satyr Wayfinder, draw some cards with Grim Haruspex, and then sacrifice a creature.
Yeah, both players. Off of the Executioner.
Correct. We'll see if Joe Anderson decides to maybe tick up a Hangerback Walker and then decide to just cash that in here.
I think Halton here is just going for value, trying to get all those card draws, all the creature dying. He's got the sack outlet. Nothing has haste. There was no Marauder in the yard. And we know he has multiple copies of Rally.
So mana confluence here off of the flip. Yeah, he's several rallies. I think the first one's just going to build up to a second.
Build up to a lethal.
Third.
Yeah.
He could have been more aggressive and sacked his Mogis Marauder before letting the spell resolve, although that may have baited Joe into a counterspell. Yep, so in response to the Merciless Executioner trigger tick up on Hangerback Walker,
Sacrifice
Joe is going to sacrifice the Mogis Marauder.
Yeah. As big and as impressive as a huge rally is, it's all in the back of a single spell. So the 20-something cards coming into play all get stopped by a single counterspell.
Mm-hmm.
So Anderson knows that if this one isn't going to be attacking in, it's just going to be getting him value. So he's just going to probably hold on to an answer. Now, this is assuming that he has a counterspell in hand. We're actually not sure.
He's been kind of strapped for mana most of the game, and we saw him discard one earlier. Looks like he's got a copy of Hero's Downfall and another card in his hand. I would not be surprised at all if it were another copy of Dissolve. We did see him discard one earlier. Players.
What's actually a little interesting about...
Oh, I guess Liliana is not in play. Perhaps that was sacrifice. I'm a little bit confused as to what happened there. Try and get some word from our table spotter. Lily just went ahead and -3'd to get back the Mogis Marauder. So there's a trigger on the stack for, looks like 1, 2, 3, 4 Devotion. Give some creatures haste and
Intimidate.
Unfortunately, there are plenty of artifact creatures to do the blocking. Let me see a copy of Hero's Downfall. Yeah. So firstly, gonna just go ahead and take care of the Nantuko Husk.
Do you want to lose all these creatures, or do you want to set it for a rally next turn? Is what he's presenting right here.
He is definitely. He's making this attack step potentially not worth it. He can essentially just get rid of what's on Joe's board. So sack to draw, and give +2/+2. If Joe Halton decides to let this resolve and leave all his creatures on the table, they'll get exiled. All but the Mogis Marauder, I believe, and the token.
The Husk was in play at the beginning,
but it will be dead.
Yeah, but it will be dead.
Yeah. So, but if he decides to just go ahead and sacrifice everything, his attack is blanked.
Now I don't.
We'll see. He's still thinking here. He's just, yeah, it looks like he is not going to risk losing all these to the trigger. He doesn't have mana to play anything else this turn to make sure that there's a sack outlet. So I don't think he's going to... With the 2 rallies in his hand currently, he's just got to go ahead and hope that one of them will resolve in the next 2 turns, and he'll be able to present a lethal attack in the near future.
Looks like he's swinging in. I'm not sure if he remembered that they can actually block. Yeah, it looks like that was all fine. He's going to get some more Thropters in. Going to have a team of robots in the sky.
Yep, so looks like at the upkeep we will see Grim Haruspex as well as Deathmist Raptor leaving from the trigger. Looks like Joe's going to take 1 to deploy Elvish Mystic. Just setting up to help himself play around
Yeah,
a Clash of
he
Wills.
drew a lot of cards that turn, so he's probably gonna have to discard down.
Yeah, he will definitely have to discard some cards. Looks like he's going to keep both copies of Rally the Ancestors. Looking to discard a copy of the Grim Haruspex, most likely. Doesn't need any more cards. Graveyard's very full, got all the tools that he needs. Yeah, it looks like Mana Confluence, Satyr Wayfinder, and Haruspex into the bin. Once again, trigger Thopter Spy Network. Joe Anderson gonna do a little bit more work on Joe Halton's library, exiling some more cards. He's found a copy of Merciless Executioner, which is not a bad one necessarily. He has plenty of creatures that are disposable on his side of the board.
Yeah,
I would say that Joe Halton also does on his side too. So probably not seeing that one coming in.
Although, you know, milling 3, he's drawing milling 3 from the Ashiok, well, exiling 3, and then drawing a bunch off of Grim means that library is going to start getting to real numbers. Like, it's going to get low. He may be able to just outlast here.
Yeah. All Anderson really needs to do is continue to, do this here. Just make one attack, trigger, draw some cards. Just try and fend off the things that Joe Halton is doing. Make sure he doesn't die to a Rally the Ancestors. If he doesn't have a counterspell here, he could be in for a rough turn. I believe he has an Ugin in his hand.
Ooh. So Ugin's a little rough, because while he does clear out basically everything that Halton has, he does do it at sorcery speed, and you're usually rallying on your turn, using the Marauder to give your guys haste.
Artificer's Epiphany going to draw Joe Anderson 2 cards. See if any of them... Here's another rally. See what Joe does here. Looks like it's going to be Clash for 3. Yeah, there we go. Joe Halton, only 2 available mana. That's going to have to get countered.
Oh, okay. So what's happening here with this rally is he's actually doing it in response to the first exile trigger from the first rally, hoping to grab that husk back so he can not permanently lose those creatures. It's a very smart play.
Yes.
Fortunately, the Clash is going to say no thank you.
Joe Halton, not many resources to work with here. He's going to need a copy of Den Protector to potentially slog through what Joseph Anderson is presenting. If you can find another counterspell, that should wrap this game up. See if we can get something close to a life total count, or excuse me, a library count.
Yeah, because we saw him exile the 1. That was the second rally that he's cast. So there's only 1 rally left.
Correct. I believe it's... So 2 exiled, 1 in the graveyard, 1 in the hand for Joe Halton. Once again, another 1/1 flying artifact Thopter token for Joe at his upkeep. The difference between 4 and 5 in the face of a rally in terms of blockers, not really a big deal. He needs to get in there and find 1 more counterspell. If he can find a... Oh, there's 3 creatures there. Looks like some mana creatures and... Yeah, Satyr Wayfinder, Elvish Mystic, and Death Mist Raptor. Something like 15 or 16 cards left, I think I counted. We'll see what the official count is. 15.
15.
There we go.
Well done.
There's a second copy of Thopter Spy Network. So he's going all in to find a counterspell here. He's going to get 2 draw card triggers off of the damage. Also, Joe Halton is at 11. I see an Ugin. I see a Dismal Backwater, bringing Joseph Anderson back up to 6. He just passes the turn. This game should not last too much longer. Either this rally is going to resolve, we're going to see Joe Halton pull this out, or Joe has another counterspell. Basically all this is boiling down to at this point. Once again, rally for 3. With 4 mana open this time, no hope of a Clash of Wills. I think this is going to resolve. There's a lot of creatures coming back into play.
I believe I count 10 Devotion to Black.
A lot of it is going away immediately. The Liliana is going to flip from the other 2 Lilianas dying before we can apply a devotion
you'll
trigger.
lose
So you lose
4.
6 off of that. Because those are
Well,
all...
her flip trigger will actually go on the stack at the same time as the end of the battlefield triggers happen, because it's the first time triggers can happen. So he should get to order those.
But the legend rule should make it so they die first.
Right, so that'll be a state. So they all come in.
All of them will be on the stack, so the devotion trigger should not resolve until after the Lily has flipped.
Yes, you're correct.
We'll also see some other things getting sacrificed. He's got 2. Each player sacrifices a creature triggers. So yeah, flip the Liliana.
Still gonna have 6 creatures at least.
Lots of things going on here. Make a token.
I can get the token haste as well.
Can give the token haste. So Joe's going to have 3 blockers, I believe, to stop this attack. And there should be 4 or 5 creatures coming in this turn. Elvish Mystic's also rumbling in as well, I believe. The ones that were just left over from the beginning of the turn. Already in play.
Both husks. I believe he has 2 husks in
Devotion
play.
trigger here immediately. It's going to give 6 creatures Intimidate and Haste. Now he's ready to sacrifice some creatures, I believe. Yep, that's going to do it. Executioners, Husks, and Raptors all get haste, 3 power creatures each. Not enough blockers on Joseph Anderson's side of the table. He could not find that counterspell to stop that last rally.
He was able to deal with the first 3 rallies, exiling it, dealing with the first 2, countering 1, letting 1 resolve, but not actually hit him. But the 4th one was enough. And like we said before, he was eking out the small advantage, so a lot of those creatures were going to get blocked. He would have had to sack a couple tokens to the Edict effects, but not enough. Not enough blockers.
Correct. Coming in, too many of them getting haste from Mogus Marauder. Overall, a very powerful seeming interaction. This deck packs a punch if you're not putting pressure on it. It wins very often in the late game because it's grindy. In that situation, we saw him get low on cards, but the pressure on his deck was not quite enough to drive him into that game. So for Joseph Anderson out of the sideboard,
Negates
he's
are
got
going to
2
be
copies,
super strong.
2 copies of Negate. Yep. Looks like he's also bringing in 1 more copy of Ashiok, Nightmare Weaver, and I think he has 2 or 3 Thoughtseizes that are also going to be coming in. If you can take those rallies, or those Den Protectors perhaps, out of Joe Halton's hand, you can sort of neuter his ability to play the long game with you, and then you can let your Thopter Spy network, which is a matchup where this card can really shine. You can let that do all of the work and just sort of ride that to victory. He is citing in more counterspells, so he's going to have a much greater ability to sit back and react to what Joe is doing.
Yeah. And as you mentioned before, those Thoughtseizes into the Den Protectors are very strong because he can't flip the Den Protectors from the rally. They're going to come in face up.
Correct.
Whereas like Death Mist Raptor has the ability to come in face up, face down off of its own trigger. Den Protector is just a normal Megamorph, so if it gets brought back It's not going to be face down. He only gets the card back off of the flip up trigger.
So it looks like Joe Halton is siding in the 3-mana Anafenza. Drown in Sorrow, Reclamation Sage, Dromoka's Command, and Thoughtseize. So some answers to enchantments there, with the Dromoka's Command being able to sacrifice an enchantment.
Yeah, same with Reclamation Sage.
And Reclamation Sage is the targeted artifact or enchantment.
Yeah.
So he could hit, whichever. If it takes out a Thopter blocker or something, that's acceptable. Yeah. A little more flexibility there with that card. Not sure why the Anafenza is coming in. It's 3 mana 4/4.
Yeah, and
there's
then
other text as well.
And it says when it attacks, whenever your opponent's creatures would go to the yard, they're exiled instead, so it doesn't affect him. And also, when it attacks, you get to put a +1/+1 counter on another tapped creature.
So perhaps looking to play a slightly more aggressive game plan, going away from the rally strategy, trying to fill his graveyard,
I think
going more towards just a resilient aggressive deck.
Yeah, I think the reason you bring it in is we know he knows he's going to be bringing in more answers to rally. If those rallies get stopped, he's in trouble. And Anafenza is for beats.
For the beat stick. Interesting to bring in the beat stick as well as Drown in Sorrow. What do you think about that?
I like it. We've seen him go really wide with the tokens. And he's had to dig a little bit with the Grim, drawing lots of cards. So a couple more Scry triggers is always good. He saw the Ashok. He realized that his library was actually a clock. Was we counted before, he got down to 15 cards. And I'm not actually sure that the Grim draw triggers is a May.
It is not.
Yeah, so
it is mandatory.
So if he wants to save his creatures to the husk, he has to draw those cards, which, drawing cards, not a problem, until it is.
I was almost able to win one of our playtest games where the Abzan Rally deck had mandatory draw triggers after resolving a Rally the Ancestors. And the last card in his library was what was drawn for the last trigger before he sacrificed all of his Grim Haruspexes. And then he was able to, do these creatures get haste and intimidate, and I kill you. So before that, I was very, very close. Yeah, looking to bring in the Drown just to have a hedge against falling too far behind. Interesting sideboard strategies from both players. I think the edge here is going to go to Joseph Anderson. His deck is already very, very good at stopping aggressive decks. He's not bringing in his Drown in Sorrows, but he does still have Languish, I would assume, to reset the board, and that's going to kill 4 toughness or fewer creatures. So that should wipe most of the things on Joe Halton's board. And then he's bringing in more answers to the unfair portion of Joe Halton's deck. I kind of like what Joe's planning to do here. Just become a control deck, fine-tuning his answers to what Joe Halton has. Of course, Joe is going to be on the play for Game 2. And by that, we mean Joe Anderson will be on the play for Game 2. He's going to mulligan. Doesn't like his 7.
Yeah, he's not too worried about a mulligan here. When the rally deck goes off, it just wins if he can't stop it. But that's not till turn 5 at least.
Yeah, he's not well set up to play an aggressive strategy, an aggressive game plan. I think bringing in the Anafenzas is helpful in that regard, but he's still got a bunch of cards in his deck that are not well suited to getting the aggressive beats on.
I mean, his aggressive line of play...
There's an Ugin left in Joseph Anderson's deck, and it's in his opening hand. We'll see if he chooses to keep the 6.
I actually like the Ugin post board because I think he knows Halton's going to go away from relying heavily on... He's going to try to stick his creatures for real, not just for the big swing. Mm-hmm. And since Ugin's going to exile off of them for -3, takes care of everything.
Ugin is very powerful. It is unfortunate that when you tap out for it, you could probably just die on the spot. Yeah. So maybe that's a reason not to have it in your deck. But because it is so powerful and it does exile things, well, once again, a reason to keep it in.
Looks like we have a backwater for Anderson. and a Citadel for Halton. Pluto Delta, pass. Second Citadel, pass.
Urborg and Ashiok. That is the perfect turn 3 play with nothing yet on the board for Halton. Satyr, Wayfinder, and...
Is it another Wayfinder?
It might be 2 Wayfinders there. We will see.
Yeah. Taking out those Wayfinders early is very good because that's like one of the biggest engines to throw cards into the yard.
It is 2 Wayfinders. We get confirmation.
Ooh. And we've seen Anderson running his dig through times. So bringing back... Oh, you don't want to bring back the Wayfinder because it'll put it back into Halton's yard if it dies.
Yeah, potentially. If he stalls on mana, we could see him -2. It also is just a reasonable... It's just a road bump. If we see Joe Halton add many, many creatures to the board, I would imagine that it's just going to continue to tick up and threaten Joe's graveyard and his hand. If he can build up enough pressure there. Oh, let's see what he's doing here. Yep, he just minus. Gonna take a Darksteel Citadel. Interesting play here. I like it. Fueling his dig, and there we go. There's the speed bump.
I was really hoping for a turn 4 Spy Network right there. Just get the land go.
It would have been
pretty
nice.
safe to tap out against Rally on turn 3, turn 4.
I agree. There's also nothing in Joe Halton's graveyard yet. He's only played 1 spell, and it's a Deathmist Raptor. Not the most threatening start, to be sure. Mogus Marauder.
It's going to get in.
Trigger Intimidate. Most likely on itself. Yeah, there we go.
Since the green creature would...
Yeah, it doesn't do a whole lot. It wants to give itself haste as well. So we'll see an attack. See what Joe Anderson decides to do here. We could see him... Oh, here looks like a Hero's Downfall on Deathmist Raptor. Gonna take 2 off of this attack. Untap and draw. Looks like a copy of Artificer's Epiphany, I believe. Plus, target you. Haruspex Mystic.
Oh, man.
A very strong plus, I believe.
Just the engines are just getting put away.
A Haruspex could give Joe Anderson enough cards to put this match on a hard lock. We'll see what Joe Halton can play. He's got a copy of Liliana, Mana Confluence, shuffling Liliana to the front. Urborg, of course, making this a very painless Liliana. It's free to tap for the black mana you need. Joe Anderson mulling it over. Looks like it does resolve here.
I think letting this resolve here is pretty good. Anderson's in a good spot. I feel like he can...
Ooh, an attack at Ashiok.
I feel like he can kind of respond to anything that would cause Liliana to flip. Maybe remove her.
Our apologies. Looks like that attack the other turn with the Intimidate went to Ashiok and not to Joseph's... Joe's head.
That would explain the block.
Yeah. So he should still be at 21.
And we're going to get a Rally. And it looks like 2 other dead cards off of this Ashiok plus.
Hitting a Rally's never bad. Exiling those, making sure that they're not able to be brought back with a Den Protector or some other form of recursion. I don't believe there's anything else he could get them back with. Certainly once they're in the exile zone, they are gone for good.
He's basically taken away every engine or every out except for Collected Company. 2 Wayfinders gone, 2 Grims gone. We just, hit a Rally. Rallies are going to be hard enough to resolve with the counters that Anderson has put in. So
Joe's going to have to ride something like this Liliana to victory if he's going to do so here in this game too. I'm going to see a chump block. It's going to go back into Joe's graveyard.
Lily will gain 2 off of her lifelink.
So Joe Halton up to 22. Ashiok down to 1 loyalty counter. And a turn, or perhaps main phase, not sure.
Yeah.
But a fetch, cracking the polluted delta. Potentially,
Sashok is just doing so much work. Not only is it taking away big cards out of Halton's deck, but every swing that goes at it is a swing that's not going at Anderson.
oh, 6 mana here for a dig. Interesting. Looks like this is end of turn dig.
No, you think he's keeping... Well, yeah, if he's got nothing else to do, you might as well tap as much mana.
Yeah, I think this is end of turn. Otherwise, he would have been a little more careful with tapping his mana. He's not going to...
I don't think he's
Not gonna tap
keeping
out here.
relevant spells in there for, say, like a Tasigur.
Correct. Thinking about that again. Chooses to. Hangerback Walker, the draw for the turn.
Thoughtseize.
Copy of Thoughtseize here. Bringing Joseph Anderson down to 18. Takes the Reclamation Sage.
And he has a mana confluence left in his hand.
Yep, Dismal Backwater back up to 19.
Looks like plus an Ashiok. No creatures.
And a Hangerback for
2?
for just 1 here.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
Dismal Backwater tap, Thoughtseize, and then
Oh, that's right. Dismal
two
Backwater
ones.
comes to tap. I'm sorry. I missed that.
Representing, looks like Dissolve. Perhaps also Artificer's Epiphany. I see a Clash of Wills in his hand as well. Plenty of spells that this could be. Certainly. Also, Hero's Downfall. Not necessarily outwardly on the lands, but he does have Urborg, so all those lands can make...
Both players, in fact,
Yeah,
have their tombs in play.
all of the lands are definitely swamps. Ashiok finally off the table. That attack, I think, going to take Joe up to 24. Another Dismal Backwater. And a fresh Ashiok this time.
Ooh.
This one looks like a Husk and a Deathmist
Raptor.
Raptor. Yeah.
This is just gotta be rough for Halton. He's just watching all of his
He's grinding
good cards
and
just
grinding
dying.
and not making any work on Joe Anderson's life total. There is a copy of Anafenza, I believe. We'll see what attacks happen here. Looks like everything else is rumbling in. May take this opportunity to... Yep. I wonder if I wouldn't just take the opportunity to eat the Elvish Mystic with the Hangerback. 2 more life for Joe Halton.
I think he didn't want to eat the Mystic, so Liliana wouldn't flip. Anderson's been playing his threats, but he's been, casting cards every turn, sometimes more than one. So having her start discarding stuff puts him into a top deck mode, which is not a mode you ever want to be in. All right.
I think Joe Anderson still has that copy of Ugin, if I'm not mistaken. So we may see that come down very soon. That could swing this very much in his favor. He did clear the way a couple turns ago with the Thoughtseize. choosing to...
Any big threat is going to have to be drawn naturally.
Yeah.
Tick up here. Take 6.
I believe that's going to put him... Oh. Liliana did not attack, so there's 6 damage.
And there's a morph.
Yeah, 26 to 14. A morph is an excellent hedge against a card like Ugin. Yeah, but here we are. We see it now. He's leaving 2 mana up. Looks like he was waiting. I think he's representing negate here. Just daring Joe to try to rally. Minus 1,
3.
2, 3 should take care of all of these things. Except for the morph, of course. And all of those creatures. Non-land permanents, of course.
It's actually all colored permanents.
Colored, right.
And lands are naturally colorless.
That is correct. Sandstep Citadel here for Joe Halton. Looks like it's a Deathmist Raptor. Megamorph. I think there's one.
He's got one in the yard.
One other copy from the Hero's Downfall before.
Yeah. One was exiled with Ashiok, and one just got exiled with Ugin.
Gonna take care of Ugin.
I think Ugin did his job.
He did quite a lot. Joe's just gonna pass it back. Another copy of Liliana drawn.
You can see that, Liliana.
There's a dissolve from Joe Anderson.
No, thank you.
Not interested in dealing with your Planeswalker.
I'll scry 1. I believe he kept it on top.
Yeah, an attack for 7, halving Joe's life total.
Looks like he kept the dig on top. Plenty of land, plenty of delve. Casting that for 2 always feels good.
This is an interesting situation. If you can find a Languish and perhaps a counterspell, it's got to feel good here. It's got to find something here to be able to take this game back over, though. Artificer's Epiphany does control Darksteel Citadel, so he will not have to discard land for the turn.
Languish.
4 mana for Languish.
If you're Halton, you're hoping for more Den Protectors here to be able to flip them up.
Absolutely.
Get them back.
I believe we have time in the round. I believe our players have a small extension being in the feature match area.
Takes
so
a few minutes to get set up.
We will see exactly when their time is called. But we are approaching the end of our Thursday night standard tournament. Yeah, so 4 minutes added. There's a copy of
Spy Network.
Spy Network. An excellent follow-up. 1 damage to Joe Anderson. Untap. Players going into Turbo Top Deck mode. A second copy added to the board here. Temple of Malady and Scry going to the bottom. And a pass back. Gonna make 2 Thopters as upkeep. The snowball begins. So here's just 1 damage. Gonna take Joe Halton to 25. He's gonna draw 2 cards off of this. One of those cards is Dissolve and an Ashiok. Oh my goodness. Ashiok pulling her weight in this matchup. Doing a very, very good job. Nantuko Husk, the only creature revealed. The jig is up on Drown in Sorrow, although I don't think they have time for a 3rd game. He does know now that that is something he brought in.
Four mana.
Collected Company from Joe. Should be enough to, yep.
Negate.
there's going to be the negate that Joe has been representing for a very long time.
Well, that's actually a very relevant play. Our spotter Jeff has made. He can minus, get the husk out, and just throw a ton of tokens into it, making it huge, finishing off in one fatal blow.
That is interesting for sure. Joe feels very safe, going to cast the Thoughtseize, take his life total even lower, down to 4. He does minus. There's the Nantuko Husk, threatening a whole lot of damage very, very quickly.
Removal spell. 2 more friends come in.
I think that's a Thoughtseize here from Joe. Yep, there it is. I don't know if Anderson cares. Yeah, I've got all these, man.
We can hear the disgust.
The puking noise is incoming. A negate, a clash, double hero's downfall. Ultimate price takes care of that. This should be a lethal attack here, I believe.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That's plus 14.
So you can pump it to a 16. That's not quite enough.
So you just swing all out here?
Yeah, I think you just... So swing with 1 artifact and sack 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Give it plus 12, make it 14. Take 15 damage this turn.
I'll draw 2.
I will draw 2 cards.
My fistful of answers could be a larger fist.
Absolutely.
Scryland.
Maybe not the Scryland.
He's just got the
just
counter
gonna
spell
slam.
waiting.
Oh, a morph.
Clash for 7?
He needs to clash for 8 here.
And he's still got
he's
still got
them,
Hero's
man.
Downfall up just in case he drops a Mogus Marauder.
So this is Halton's turn 1. We are in full time. Clash of Wills. I would not like you to have this morph creature.
No Dent Protector, sir.
Not for you, not today.
And
that Dent Protector would have been very good there.
Oh, absolutely. Would have immediately been able to flip it up, get back 2 Deathmist Raptors.
All right, here's a lethal attack.
Battle. Sack.
6, 7 damage.
Picking them up.
Looks like the players are going to end this match in a draw. 1-1 Abzan Rally versus Blue-Black Thopter Spy Network Control.
Ending their record in our 4-round Thursday standard 3-0-1.
Thopter Thursdays. Can we go with that from now on?
Thopter Thursdays.
2 feature matches with Joseph Anderson playing his Blue-Black Thopter deck. Very exciting to watch. That's going to do it for us, but we are here to remind you and thank you again for watching. We're going to give you, once again, the coupon code you can use online at checkout at thewastelandgaming.com.
The website is on the playmats, it's on the stream, and there are plenty of links on the Twitch site. You guys can find your way there. Mm-hmm. That code again is STREAM, STREAM, and that's for 10% off any purchase made at thewastelandgaming.com.
Yep. We will also remind you that on Saturday, we're going to have Regionals Standard Tournament. $5,000 in prizes, I believe, all told, going to be given out to the contestants. Please come join us.
Yeah, not only that, but there'll be side events being run the whole day.
Of course.
There will be fantastic Magic players, fantastic games to be played, fantastic prizes to be won. It is right across the street from the Wasteland, right at Santa Fe Mall. Doors open at 9 a.m. And we hope to see you there.
Come battle for glory. Or for money. Just come battle. We'll see you there. Signing off from the Wasteland. This is Nathan Satterfield.
And Brad Van Slyke.
Also on behalf of our table spotter, Jeff Stouter, thank you so much for watching, and we
Thanks
will
again.
see you Saturday.